What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Serie A audio experience from IFTV. You guys didn't see what I looked at, but both of you did the exact same pose right as I started the podcast. You both touched your right eye.
Damn, man.
You guys are hanging out together way too much.
I gotta get out of here.
What is going on?
What's going on? I'll tell you. Mike is trying to copy. Once it's Antonio wannabe.
Yeah, that's what I want to copy.
Soon he's going to shave his head.
I want to copy you out of all the people.
Weren't you supposed to grow a mustache, by the way? Now that I just looked at his.
I brought him up. I brought it up again.
Yeah, come on. I got it. I'll do
You
it.
lost your
Come
bet.
on.
You know why? Because you're not a you don't keep to
He's
your
not a man of his word.
You don't keep to your
You're
bets.
not a man of your word.
No, man of the word is
I
too
might
harsh.
have
You
to
don't
start
keep
to
to your bets.
I might even start to listen to Mike because if
I'm
I
still
listen
waiting
to him,
for my steak.
If steak, I
you
have a
listen to
steak
Mike,
for
what?
you, Pete.
He's going to get one from the garbage.
You want the steak for the vampire?
Next! A wooden steak. That's what it's called.
B, it's been a little while since we've seen you here.
It's been a while. Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm good.
You're good?
Yeah.
Yeah, you sure?
I'm all right.
Yeah,
I'm
both of you too had very similar weekends, I would say. Had leads and then ended the same exact way, 2-2 and lots of drop points. There's a lot that we'll talk about this weekend in Serie A, but what a league we have. It really is incredible that you can't miss moments because so much just goes down. And if you think about some of the things that we had said a couple of months ago, so much has changed right now. There are teams that are in the race that I never expected to be in the race. There are also teams that going for the top four that I think are completely out of the challenging, considering I think about Lazio, who picked up 1 point in their first two games. Empoli and Lecce, they tied in the 94th minute. Empoli tied today, and then they lost to Lecce last week. Where do we want to start with this one? Because there's a lot to peel from this onion.
Okay, let me start with this. First of all, let's honor Vialli.
Sure.
Because it's still in the back of my head and I can get it over with. I saw the special on Sky. It's just so sad. I mean, the guy had a beautiful soccer life. God would have just blessed him with maybe 30, 40 years of family life and things like that. It didn't work out, but nevertheless, he left a big sign to not just to Italy. I mean, the guy was a gentleman in and out of the field, and he left his wife with 2 kids, but he left us like this, like shocked. And this is the first thing that we wanted to do.
Well, what did Vialli mean to you? Because obviously you watched him more than we did.
It did mean a lot. He scored even against AC Milan. I mean, I didn't like at the time, but he was an icon for the soccer, for the Italian soccer team, and it was a gentleman. You never see Vialli doing something out of style. He had a style, this guy here. He had a style when he played, and it was in front of the camera, away from the camera. I heard that even on the locker room, he used to make jokes with everybody, used to make pranks with everybody. He was one that just sparked the environment wherever he went, and I think it's going to be a big loss. When I saw Mancini give him the last embracement when they won the European Championship, on Mancini's crying, I read that Vialli was not going to live that long.
You know what? You know what's crazy about that moment?
I saw it today again, and I said, "Oh my God, look at Mancini! Mancini, he knew even more than what we knew."
You know what's crazy? That moment is that they had both played with Sampdoria European final against Barcelona, which was lost in Wembley, and then they beat England in Wembley in the Euro final together again. So they had these two special nights. And when I read Mancini's tribute and I heard that, for me, obviously, I didn't know him as well as a player. Besides everything that I've watched, everything that growing up, you heard about Vialli, winning the last Champions League with Juventus in '96. But it's all the messages from people, from all his teammates that just talk about him as a soul, like as a kind soul, which is just unbelievable to me.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get a real chance to watch him play. You know, the most that we've been able to see is maybe YouTube videos.
No, you guys,
see,
I did.
I was talking more so us. You already said so. What we had the chance to see was what he was able to give or add to this Italian team that went on to win the Euros, where I think he was a real inspiration for a lot of these players and understanding, you know, aside from just football, calcio, there's a whole life there, you know, that, you know, each of these players have to deal with, whether there's the mental side or the physical side. And just seeing someone like that fight every day for his life and try to, you know, communicate the importance of life and how, you know, you shouldn't really worry about these little things, the bigger picture, and you know, just being able to live your life is so important. So, you know, like you said, we honor Vialli and his life, and more of a celebration of his life, of what he was able to give as far as enjoyment and spettacolo, right? As you say in Italian.
Now, the nicest guy that you want to have around. That's the main thing.
We should also mention Sinisa Mihajlovic as well, who we never got a chance. Both going down leukemia and cancer. So sad. Mike, anything about Mihajlovic? Because obviously, I remember he's always one of your favorite coaches.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all big fans of Mihajlovic just in general too, and we know he's beaten leukemia in previous times. And unfortunately, this time it got him. And even when he was at Milan, when he was at Sampdoria, at Bologna, he was just one of those coaches that you gave everything for. He really had that grinta in him, and he was just, whenever you saw him, you always felt like, okay, they could do something. Even in their performances, you could tell it was a team managed by Mihajlovic. So he always gave his 100% wherever you went. And of course, as a player, he was arguably the best ever free kick taker, especially in Serie A. That guy bended it all over the place. A lot of people like me and Mark didn't grow up watching him, but of course we saw clips of him. So he was spectacular on and off the pitch, just like Vialli, of course. And it's a shame that people like this go. And I think, we said in the past, the only way to keep the spirits high is keep telling stories about him, keep talking about him. Because that's truly, I think that's what everyone would want. And
on the flip coin, we lost Mihajlovic, we lost Vialli, and the young kid over there on the football game over there that he almost died over there. We were able to get him back because they resuscitate him, and it seems to me that the news is very good. And I think it was been taken off the respirator and the oxygen, and I think now the prognosis for him is very good. So this time it's 2 down and 1 saved. So
we have a lot
and prayers.
A lot of reminders
for people that believe or they don't believe it. Prayers they do work. So
for sure.
A lot to be thankful for in general, just in everyday life. I think both of them showed that, and even fighting through the courage that Mihajlovic showed, continuing to be a coach while battling that. Even sometimes they said he used to have to coach the team over Zooms, video conference while he's in freaking hospital. I mean, as a man and as a coach, salutes to them. And yeah, like you said, we keep living Serie A, we keep living their memories to the next generation, and we'll never stop talking about their stories.
Okay, having said that, let's go to the games, and that was good. I feel much better that it's done. I think they're still here. They're influencing us on the on the positive most of the time. And now let's go. What
do you want to go towards now?
I just want to get this tie for me that is actually a loss for AC Milan. Okay. This 2-2 game that is really. I mean, I've been saying that I saw this goddamn black cat. I'm very superstitious, and I text you guys. I said, "Oh crap! Look what happened."
I let it out.
Eh?
I brought it in front of your house.
You did?
So Antonio saw a black cat, and the superstition is like, if you see a black cat, you're gonna have a bad day unless you cross the street, right?
No.
I think
if you are with
you
a
have to
car,
cross the
listen to
street.
this. If you are with a car and a black cat crosses in front of you, you have to wait until somebody else with another car takes the bad luck.
Did you do that?
No, I did not, because it was on
so
foot.
it's
It
your
was
fault.
on my front yard. And then I said, and the guy, even when he passed through, and then he turned and looked at me like, I said, "Oh, today's not going to get good for you." So I said, "Oh,
I think I have a solution.
Why?
You should get a black cat as a pet.
No, I don't think so. My dog will just chew him to death. It's going to kill him. So anyway, AC Milan, spectacular game for 85 minutes. Roma comes out with those two lucky, I would say, because I don't think it's defensive mistake that AC Milan.
It was the set piece.
The set piece. Yeah, the set piece. The guy takes the free kick and he hits the head of the Branks. What's his name? Branks. And then he puts the Catalari, whoever was supposed to be getting that easy header, out of timing, and then the ball gets into the, please. It's just so painful to watch it. I almost put the 3 points into the winning column for us, but it was not meant to be.
It's the first time this season. You guys had 9 wins, I think, since going when scoring first in a game. Obviously, you didn't lose, but it feels like a loss because Milan at home, 2-0 up, to a Roma side that we also have to say did not do anything in the first 70 minutes or so.
Nothing.
They were not playing a style. I mean, we know how Roma play. We know they play under Jose Mourinho. the thing that it's so interesting to me, and I want to pick everybody's brains out, is there's two things that I think kind of went wrong. Number one, the substitutions of Pioli.
Yeah, Matic.
We've also,
when he came in from Roma, you had to just add somebody else just to get him one-on-one. We were not able to stop this guy.
We've spoken about Pioli substitutions a few times in the past. You think back to the game against Napoli where he put Dest in to cover Quadrado. It didn't really work out. And then the next thing is, when you're Milan, right, and you're studying the game plan of Roma, where are they dangerous at? They're dangerous at set pieces. The only way that they get back into a game is by committing stupid fouls and corner kicks and things of this nature, because that's what Roma strives on. They're not going to beat you really with the ball at the ground in open play. And credit to Roma, though. For me, it's like they knew that that's where they had to win the game. And Milan kept leaning into it. You constantly kept giving them those opportunities, and they took them with both hands. And that is a testament to, for me, the character of Mourinho's team, right? You want to talk about them not playing good football? I think you're justified. You want to say that they rely on individual talent? You're justified. But what you can't say is that he's improved the not dying attitude of Roma, because for me, Roma in the past, and you've seen it a couple times this season, they would have given up when they go down. So on that aspect, I have to give Roma credit.
But not Mourinho, because, let me tell you something.
Mourinho. Who do you think does it?
The coach, go ahead, Mike.
And of course, Marco, I think you had said it very well there. Mourinho's efficient, man. He, for the little chance he has, for the most part, they score. They do well.
Well, no, they've had the worst
scoring.
They've had the worst expected goals. Like, they created a lot of opportunities. I think they're top 3 or 4 for most opportunities, but no scoring.
I think the biggest problem with Roma is their how they come into games. Like, against them, if Roma didn't score those games, we just talk about another time. They didn't play good. They didn't play offensive football. Because they didn't get a result. But in this case, they were down 2-0. They scored 2 goals. Ended up working for them. Maybe you could say something bad about Milan's defense there, but Roma ended up getting 2 goals.
On Ibanez's goal,
got a point out of
fine.
nowhere.
On Ibanez's goal, I tip my hat. Beautiful header. Boom. The ball is behind the net. Nothing that you can do about it. But if I hear Magnan over there, even on the second goal, let me tell you something.
No, you can't blame Rusano on that. He made a first save.
Magnan will never let this happen, number one. Number two.
I'm actually with Antonio.
Magnan will never let that thing happen. Magnan will have a block that thing.
Magnan makes miracles.
No, come on. No, we're saying
the way he organized, I don't know. I've always expected with
That was the defense's fault there.
Yeah, it was. I agree with that.
Rusano made a save also. What do you want him to do? Make 2 saves on the floor?
I'm not saying he's culpable, but I think that Magnan has consistently always just created miracles. So
But do you blame Rusano on that?
No, there's definitely there's more mistakes. But
Magnan will have a probably.
No, that's too harsh.
What's your take on everything?
Magnan, that's a goalkeeper that gives you 10 points a season. So chances are, if he was there, maybe a different outcome happens. But what Mike said, like the defender, Ibanez was right in front of the goal. I don't think any goalkeeper will really have the reflexes to be able to make that save.
That's
and
fine.
even in the second one, he pushes it, parries it, and then Tammy's right there, open goal.
The header of Matic was very frontal.
Yeah, so
a very good goalkeeper. Keeps the ball close or just does something else.
But
that's a mistake.
Okay, but I think the mistake that led to that goal was the foul.
Yeah.
So
that was
the
without
issue.
a doubt.
So going back to it, I mean, Roma, we know already, for the players that they have, they should be playing much better. Zaniolo is still he's confused, I guess. I don't know. He's a glimpse of himself. He's not efficient. I think he's looking to do too much. I can't really understand him. Even Pellegrini at times goes in and out of games. Dybala, I can't really really pinpoint him, because he is the one that gets the fouls, that gets to try to create something.
Yeah, he tries.
And he's been out for a little bit, so you can't really pinpoint on him. But just on Roma's side, it was a little lackluster in the playing style. We know that,
as usual.
Mm-hmm. But what ends up happening in the end, I think, is something to be able to build upon. Mourinho knows how to stimulate and motivate this team.
Even though he was not sitting on the bench, this guy here, every time that he's been on the bench, he has to produce positive results for Roma.
Anyway,
Roma's
right where they should be. If you look at the rest of the table, I think obviously in the beginning there was a lot of hype and a lot of excitement for the team to be able to push for the Scudetto, but realistically it was to finish in top 4, and they're right there now.
Top 4?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, that was their hope, to win, to be in top 4. That's what they're pushing for, okay, as an objective. Now, Milan, this is the first time I think that we see Milan kind of scramble in these last 10 minutes or so, where once Roma scored that goal, we saw Milan's nerves really come out. Was it because of the players that were substituted in, where they were younger, maybe not really understanding of the situation? That's a possibility. But I think once Roma scores that 2-1, Milan were on edge, and Roma, because of the individual talent, a set piece, any play that they were going to get, they would have capitalized, and that's what ended up happening. So it definitely hurts as a Milan fan, I know, because you wanted to be able to just keep up with Napoli, one, and also be ahead of Juventus. But listen, in Italy, what we see is, doesn't matter how you play, it matters the result, right?
You look
we
happy
talk about
though.
Juventus.
But you
No,
look
I'm not
happy, like you're miserable. You're like misery loves company.
No, listen.
You guys got slapped around by Monza. Look at you.
Listen, we didn't get slapped around by Monza.
Yes, you did.
You don't believe that there was a controversial
BS.
call?
We
You don't
got
believe
controversial calls too.
Okay, exactly.
But we take it like a man. We
And
just
that's
strip
what I'm
them
doing.
out.
That's what I'm gonna do.
Okay.
Oh, I
You
love
see.
this.
That's
I
why you
love
should
this.
never
You
have a
see what
mention
I
anyway.
have
love
to
this.
mention. You say you got beat around. It's different.
No, you got slapped around.
Who?
I didn't say beat around. You got slapped around.
by
Yeah.
who?
Look, Galliani the way he jumped from the
Yeah,
bench
I
over
know.
here.
But going back to it, it also is good for Inter that Milan was able to drop points.
That's why you're happy.
Of course, you have to be able to keep up with the rest of the team. We're 3 points away now from second place. I think the Scudetto, we can't even think about it right now.
Why
We have
not?
to bring about. Can't think about it right now.
Really?
10
right now.
points.
Yeah, but you think that you're out of the race?
We have to chip away before we can even think about Scudetto. Right now,
I agree
we
with
have to
Peter.
solidify our defense. There's still a lot of things that
Monza
we
was
have
a
to
killer.
figure
Hey,
out.
you know what I
For
wanted
you
to
guys,
add?
for you guys,
Matteo,
Monza was a killer.
Monza did it to Juventus. They did it to Milan. They did it to a lot
They
of
didn't do it
teams.
to Milan. What did they do to Milan?
Can you check? Did
get
Monza
shot.
lose to?
I think
think so.
Monza only
Or
beat
tied.
they beat Juventus and they tied Inter.
But not Milan.
I don't think
won
they-
against,
I don't think so.
Monza.
I don't know. I feel
Hey, by
like
the way,
Monza-
you know, I picked up on Mike Grella when I was watching the comment of the stuff on Zaniolo. It's validating technically what I've been saying for a long time. To me, this Zaniolo, you guys put so much stock on this guy here. It's not this much of a great player. Roma, I think, made a big
They lost,
gamble.
they won.
Milan killed them 4-1.
Yeah. This Zaniolo, again, let's go back to
That was a
Zaniolo.
dream that you had.
Grella was right about Zaniolo because it's validating my points that I hear for a long time. Zaniolo should be a player that should have been sold a long time ago. Give it to Juventus. Zaniolo is not as good as everybody else around in this league believes.
He's not in a good moment right now.
No,
as well
he's-
as
yeah,
but there's many.
right now.
there's-
When was in a good moment? Give it to me. When?
Before he got
last
injured.
year?
Before he got
Last
injured.
year?
yeah, last year. he
What
was
did he
doing
do?
well.
How many goals did he score?
He scored in the Conference League final, Europa Conference
How
League final.
many?
I don't know.
But
I
listen,
don't have the
he
numbers
has,
off
he
the
has
side.
the
I mean,
tools and he's got
Ronaldo,
everything
he's
ready
been
for him
heavily injured
by
throughout
his
his
playing
career.
style. So he just needs to calm down.
If you look his number and his stats, this guy
But
here,
stats is not everything in soccer.
to
and
me,
football.
Zaniolo, it's overrated, and that Roma should be doing the homework a little better and maybe get rid of this guy here and get somebody that can produce a little some results.
All right, that's his opinion. You're right to it. Inter, let's talk about Inter because that's where we're going. You have such an unbelievable result against Napoli on a team where you completely unified. You tactically had it down to a T. Simone Inzaghi studied Napoli. You fought as a unit. Acerbi looked even great. Your defense was solid. You stopped the best attack in the league. How do you go from that? How do you feel like Inter went from that to the game against Monza, where we obviously know there's difference of levels of motivation, but you were up in the match 2 times and it still slipped away. How do you justify that, or how do you reason that?
Well, listen. The thing is, what happened in the end, it shouldn't happen to a team that's going to go win the Scudetto. That's why my remark before was we can't even consider the Scudetto until we start chipping away and we solidify what we need to
I
solidify.
think I understand what you mean by that better now.
Yeah,
You're not saying it's out of the reach, but
No,
it's not the
as
focus right now.
It can't be
Gotcha.
the focus because this Inter team have done this whole season, where your expectations are high, and then all of a sudden you have a terrible game. One thing that I would say as a remark for the Napoli game, because I didn't have a chance to speak on it, but the Napoli game I think was vital for Inter to kind of say, hey, we could be in here, we deserve to be there, and at the same time, this was the first game that Inter won versus I think a top
eight.
5, top 8.
You lost 5 games to the top 8.
So that was vital for Inzaghi. Now going to Monza, I think the game was in our hands, even though Monza, we know what style Monza plays. It's a very fluid football. They're going to have chances. They're going to be able to break. But then for Inter's purposes, this is when you have to be able to cement yourself there in the top positions in Serie A. And, when you go up to 2-1, you have to get that third goal. And that, for me, I don't know, the team just didn't look hungry enough, or it was a lackluster performance by some of the guys that came in.
Such as?
Lukaku. I think Lukaku, this game, was, upsetting is the same way that he was a catalyst for the Napoli game. He also hurt this Inter team in the Monza because he did not add any depth to the offense. He needs to be able to come in, get a ball in the air, win a ball, and run into the space and try to create a numerical advantage. And we didn't see that at all. Is it because I understand Inzaghi's idea of trying to keep him on the bench to monitor his physical state? Injuries.
I didn't agree with that decision at all.
I didn't agree with it either. I think
it should have been Dzeko Lukaku from the start.
I agree.
I would have rewarded them for such a great moment.
Exactly. But I could understand why Inzaghi did it. I think just because of Lukaku's injuries these past 6 months or so, there's been injury. Yeah, what do you mean?
One injury. Pete,
he's been out for the whole season.
You are the master on turning on a word salad and turning something into a pretzel.
He wasn't injured?
A pretzel.
It's BS. What injury?
He wasn't injured.
No, he was injured. He was injured for the World Cup too.
Come on, I thought he was out.
In fact, he had a way worse injury than anyone even thought.
Exactly.
He said his tendon literally was broken.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So he was out, and I think Inzaghi was monitoring. He was monitoring this guy, Antonio. He was monitoring his injury. So that was one reason why I think Inzaghi didn't start Lukaku. The third goal that Inter did score,
that you were supposed not to mention.
No, I'm going to mention it, and then I'm going to explain why I'm going to mention it. No, so what happened was there was a mistake in how you're supposed to be refereeing the game, where during a goal scoring opportunity, the referee is supposed to hold his whistle in this occasion.
Advantage.
Whereas if he's going to call a foul, you let the play finish and then you can whistle the foul after. So that way VAR
advantage
they can verify it then afterwards. The fact of the matter was he whistled before the ball got into the back of the net, and therefore we were not able to go to VAR and show that a Monza player fouled another Monza player, which shouldn't be a foul, and Inter goal would have stand 3-1. We're talking about a whole nother situation right now. But what I'm going to say is we've seen it before. Milan versus Spezia.
Thank you.
That's what I'm about to say.
Oh, nice.
So Milan versus Spezia got wronged, just as Inter versus Monza. And we can't pinpoint every little thing because these mistakes happen. There is a human error in refereeing, as there is a human error in our players. Because,
but to be fair, this situation should not happen because
it should have been put a protocol.
The referee did not follow the protocol.
Yeah, it should have been the protocol.
Yeah.
But if I have to say anything, Mkhitaryan, who I don't know how old he is, but I think he's 34
or something like that.
Okay, you do not lose that ball in the middle.
Yeah, that was bad.
You do not try to sombrero in the middle of the park when you're winning 2-1.
Not smart.
You have to be able to position yourself, get the foul, or advance that ball.
Far enough,
and he didn't do that. No, but you lose the ball in the middle. You're not far enough. You're gonna cause
dangerous.
havoc.
Yeah,
okay,
it's dangerous.
and that's what happened. And you lose the ball, and I think that's also his fault in the makeup of the goal. And there wasn't a player closing him down. Dumfries also gets caught off guard, where Darmian is putting a spectacular performance these past 2 games, even getting his goal versus Monza. And then you have Dumfries who comes in and he's just not able to keep up the focus or the concentration. Because you should be jumping and winning that ball. You have to be hungry. You have to be foaming at the mouth.
Goal that he scored, Dumfries, it was priceless. It's technical, header. It was beautiful.
So it was a game that you should have.
And you were here.
You should have
remember,
gotten
Mike, the way Peter reacted.
How did Peter react?
Oh, it was a beast. He was out of his mind. Even on the last 5 minutes of the overtime and all the stuff, he was out of his mind. He was screaming and yelling and pounding his feet. Pete, that was the moment that I enjoyed the most. Forget about the Inter loss. It was just you. Peter, he loses his mind.
That was.
Oh my God! With Lukaku, with all of those players, it was
crazy to see his face when they conceded.
I wish I could have recorded that.
I almost felt bad for Peter.
I wish I could have recorded that.
I think that match, first of all, even though, okay, the game against Napoli, they won, whatever. But I feel like I give credit to Inter there. But I just feel like Napoli did not look like themselves. They were still, even though, yeah, whatever, everyone comes back, they were on a break from the World Cup, whatever. Napoli just looked a completely different team. They didn't look like the Napoli that we saw. So Inter got the result that they needed, whatever. Good for them. Back in the Scudetto race. But then they dropped points against Monza. Like, yeah, I understand that this goal would have counted. But this whole season from Inter, they're not convincing. And I think that goes back to the point of Inzaghi. Shout out to Gaetano, because I feel like he's been trying to open our eyes the whole time. And we're like, Gaetano, you're crazy. Come on. He's not that bad. But Inter don't look convincing. Even when they're winning, you're like, oh, they look shaky. Their defense, Acerbi shouldn't be a starter for Inter.
But he looked so good against Napoli. He had Osimhen in his pocket against Napoli.
Napoli were.
So you say he can't be a starter, but then he did such an amazing performance against Napoli.
He's also very old, and he shouldn't playing that 2 times in a week is very tough for an older defender like that. Also, but I just feel like Inter this season are not very convincing. Their attack isn't convincing. Their defense, they're leaking goals here and there.
Their attack has scored 37 goals now, right? It's the second best attack. Their attack for me is not the problem.
I don't know.
For me, it's the defense. The way that you win a Scudetto, the way that you win a league is by not conceding goals. It's the history of Serie A. The team that don't concede goals ends up being there in the end. And both Inter and Milan have conceded a lot more goals than they should be conceding. For me, it's not the attack. It's more so the concentration and the total understanding of you need to be able to grind certain games out. I know we also spent the entire time talking about Inter. I want to talk about Monza as well, because for me, Monza approached the game in a great way. And I love when a team from Serie B comes and they see the big teams. They see the Juventus, they see the Inter, and they're not scared to go into the match. Palladino said they needed to channel that same energy that they did in their historical performance against Juventus, where they got their first ever Serie A win. For me, they did. They were creating opportunities. They honestly, I mean, the goal, of course, should have counted for Inter, but the way that they kept the pressure on and they approached the match, I loved that from them. And they were rewarded for consistently believing into the end. And maybe I read too much into this, but I think a lot comes down to Galliani being involved in the team, who's a serial winner, who's won it all at Milan, who's still living with his heart on his sleeve and is so passionate about the team. And he's got that experience, and he's not settling to just be okay in the Serie A. He wants to be a top half of the team. I feel like that does rub off on a club, and I feel like Monza's expectations just elevate because of that status. And on a few occasions, no justifying their previous results, because their previous results have not always been good. But you see glimpses where I think next year Monza could be a serious team to try to become like one of the challengers, like one of those clubs
next
that
year, well, I would wait maybe another
one of those clubs like Fiorentina, Sassuolo,
absolutely.
Atalanta's a little bit too high for my level because they got Champions League, but they could be in one of those weird places of Serie A where they're trying to get to the Europa Conference League,
looking in from outside.
But I would say with Monza, like you said, you have Berlusconi, Galliani, who know the rodeo, right? With Milan, they've won what they had to win, and with Monza, this passion project and then obviously being able to bring the team to a historic Serie A birth, right? Now, this year is the important year, because with any of these teams that come up, it's staying up the first year. That's the hardest part. If you're able to stay up, then you could build on top of the team. And they've made investments for this team, and it's a very different team than it was last year. And then what's surprising is just the choice of Palladino, because I think Palladino, young coach from the Primavera, no one was really expecting him to be the coach. And look, he's been able to put some inspiring performances, and also putting the right team on the field.
What's interesting of that is I listened to when Galliani spoke about Palladino being hired, because it was a surprise. And he said, for us, it's not really a risk, because He says, we knew Palladino was going to be the one for the future. The timing wasn't expected because they had Stropa before. But he even brought up, he was not comparing him to Sacchi because that's high expectations. But he says, people said Sacchi was such a big risk when I brought him to Milan. But we were convinced. So it's not really that what he did previously doesn't matter. It's more so his ideas, his philosophy. And yes, he is at a young age, but he can learn quickly. And I do think that there are worse teams in the Serie A that helps him out a little bit, and that they'll be able to stay within the league and be able to build on it. We're going to move on.
I can summarize this game, Inter Monza, Inter Napoli, dalle stelle alle stalle. You win against the best and you lose almost against one of the team at the bottom. So, Pete, I tip my hat to you. I tip my hat to you.
You didn't win either this week. What do you mean?
But they lost. I mean, it's Roma. Not lost. They tied to Roma.
Without the Roma,
but you're up 2-0, 85th minute.
I know. But,
they didn't have a shot on target until the 86th minute.
Do you believe this? Do you believe this?
So that's even more embarrassing for you
No,
guys.
it's not embarrassing.
Yeah, of course
I just want him
you
to be
close a game.
Mike,
Inter lost to Roma.
I want him to be a little bit more miserable than
Right,
what he
lost
is,
to Roma.
okay?
But look how they lost, though. Look how they tied.
Okay, Mike, now you can see. Don't tell me that you're a Milan fan.
But the way you're talking to Peter as if you got all 3 points
I want him
this
to be a
week,
little
you
bit more
can't.
miserable. That's what I'm here for.
You're such a great
That's
friend.
what I'm here for. He said.
Pete,
I don't think Peter understands.
doesn't understand.
We still need to talk about Juventus. We still need to talk about Lazio. We have a few more topics before we get out of here. But one thing that's happening right now, which is very exciting, is EA Sports FIFA. They're doing their Team of the Year, the best selection of players that go out, and they have a voting for it, which people can vote. The link will be in the description right now. They put 100 names out. We have a lot from Serie A to choose from. Michael and I took the liberty, because I know you guys are busy. We built an 11. We built a team.
He was here all day.
We just didn't want to ask him his opinion.
being honest.
We're saving your moment for the podcast right now. I will read the names from the Serie A players and then let you guys think a little bit on who you want in this 11, and then we'll tell you our team. We've got Barella, Brozovic, Leao, Theo Hernandez, Immobile, Kostic, Magnan, Lautaro, Milinkovic-Savic, Biraghi, Osimhen, Pellegrini, Bremer, Szczesny, Tomori, Tonali, Vlahovic, Amrabat, Giroud, and Rabiot. Off the top of your head, who do you think
Are those guys?
needs to be in this?
Leao,
Who's had a great year?
Leao, Theo,
Giroud.
I like another striker ahead of Giroud.
Oh, Lukaku?
No.
Sorry.
I think we can agree that Lukaku doesn't belong in the Team of the Year.
That's
He's not part of the.
I'll say Barella.
Tonali, definitely.
Those are my three, I guess.
I'll read the 11 that we chose.
Okay.
But remember, guys, I know we love Serie A. Serie A is our life.
Magnan.
It's the for us the league that we watch the most. But we also need to remember that we're talking about an entire 11, and there's other players out
All
there.
right, let's go.
This is the 11. We did 4-3-3. Michael and I, we have Courtois in net, who won the Champions League. He won the league. He had plenty of clutch performances. Hakimi as the right back really doesn't get any better in terms of a modern fullback than Hakimi. Bremer for the center back of Juventus. What Juve have done so far, this first, he won Defender of the Year. That's number one.
You bias.
And they have tied, and they have 7 goals conceded so far. Virgil van Dijk in the other center back position to partner him. Theo Hernandez, of course, because for me he's the best left back in the world. Midfield trio, we did Barella, Modric, and De Bruyne. Barella, for me, one of the most underrated players in the entire world. I think he's unbelievable in the midfield. Modric, I mean, Croatia finished in 3rd place in the World Cup, 37 years old, pure maestro. De Bruyne is from a different planet. I mean, every time he plays for Manchester City, he's a top midfielder. Then the front three. This is where the magic begins. Lionel Messi, probably the undisputed GOAT at this point. He got his World Cup. He won it all. He was involved in every goal for Argentina in the World Cup. Benzema, he won the Ballon d'Or. Case closed. And then Mbappe, half man, half alien. What he did in the final, he scored a hat-trick. First male player since 1966 to score a hat-trick in the World Cup. That is our 11.
I'll tell you what. Can I sub some of them?
Yes, you can.
Okay. First of all, I will take Barella out and I will put Tonali over there. Benzema, it was okay last year, but I'm not sure if I can just give him this.
Who do you want? You want Giroud?
Yeah,
Why?
because Giroud, at this age, he has shown that he's got potential still.
Were there anybody that you think we left off from that Serie A crew? Or from in general?
From Serie A, the only one I can put in there as an argument is over the guys that you have is Magnan.
Oh, definitely. I said Magnan 4.
Just because of what he does for the Milan team, and then he was a catalyst of the Milan team winning the Scudetto that year. And
Leao?
the only thing that's against, but Leao doesn't beat out Mbappe, doesn't beat out Messi, unfortunately.
Also think a lot of these players, we also took it as they would be a lot of fun to play in the games with. Like they're going to get new cards. They're going to get team of the year cards that we're able to play with in FIFA and add to our ultimate teams. So I would love a Barella team of the year card. The only other one that I think maybe you could argue as well, Bremer over Tomori.
No, Bremer is not even close.
Would you put Tomori
Absolutely.
instead of him?
Absolutely.
Why don't they just put all of Milan?
No, it's not has to do with. I didn't put Tonali. I didn't put Leao. I didn't put some.
Where's Salah's maker from
Yeah, Leao over Mbappe.
You
You
chose
chose
all
all Milan players.
No, I did not. I wanted Magnan over there and Tomori. That's it.
Understood. Mike.
And Tonali, Magnan, Tomori. Only three. Magnan, Tomori,
And Theo Hernandez.
Oh, Theo, you choose Theo Hernandez.
Mike. Any disputes that you had
The only
internally with this 11?
The only change I would probably make is Courtois for Magnan.
Okay. So same reasons that he said.
I was thinking Bremer, but Bremer had a very good year.
Bremer is amazing.
I gotta give it to him.
Bremer's amazing.
I think
what
only
Juventus
keeper.
is doing right now, so much is down to Bremer.
I think only keeper.
conceded the fewest amount of goals this year.
Magna's my only change.
The only thing that I'm looking at too as well, Haaland. We don't have Haaland in this team.
No. He didn't play in the World Cup.
So, not everyone. None of these Italian players played in the World Cup. Barella didn't play in a World Cup. Bremer didn't even play in the World. Bremer played at one game.
But you can compare Haaland to Benzema. Benzema had a better year than Haaland.
I wanted like
So that's how you do it.
could change the
Benzema
formation.
didn't play.
I think that's everybody that Brozovic. What about Brozovic?
Ahead of Modric.
Are you
Modric.
kidding
You should
me?
watch Modric play.
No.
That guy is a magician. I did the card tricks before, but
even
that guy.
even
You
the
didn't
card
even
tricks
know
are
how to
terrible.
try.
You don't even know.
Your card tricks are
horrible.
terrible.
I was Serie A.
Well, this is who we would vote for. This is not the official team. This is if you let IFTV choose. This is who we'd go for. Guys, comment down below who you would. And don't even just go comment. Go vote on EA Sports website. We will put the link at the top of the description. You can vote for any of the 100 players and build your 11. And then come back here and tell us who you put so that we could argue it. And Antonio can tell you why all the Milan players should be in the 11.
all of it.
Is it fair to say, I mean, I don't think this is even a question, Juventus is back?
God, look at you,
Yeah,
miserable
for
you
sure.
are. You were such a miserable.
What?
You guys
Wow.
got abused by Cremonese.
Oh.
Listen,
But
got-
you know
they
Juventus
got-
is technically
they
in
got the-
second place
they
right
got the
now on the
points.
table.
They got the
Juventus
points.
is back.
Listen,
They got the points though.
listen, you should be ashamed of
got the
yourself
points.
even to bring
Inter.
this up. You should be ashamed of yourself to even bring this up.
Why?
Because the quality, the output that you have on the field is disgraceful.
But the point.
I
you
mean,
get-
just watching Juventus playing is just a disgrace. My God, if soccer, I mean, if you have to just convince somebody to become a soccer fan and you put them in front of a team like Juventus playing soccer, I say, what the hell I want to watch this game. It's boring like crap and all that crap. It's not what they do. They defend 3/4 of the time and then they capitalize on one of those two chances that they're not even chances, don't be defensive mistake.
it's easier to watch Milan concede 2 late goals at the end, right?
Here you go, Mike.
Listen, Juventus are there. Obviously, defensively, they're spectacular,
That's
but
what
also
they do.
because of
8
how
wins
they
in a
play.
row.
But it's how they play.
Yeah,
they don't
okay.
play. That's
But they're second points now.
they
second
sit
point.
back
Yeah.
and they're just staying in front and let the
It's
other team play.
working.
Yeah.
It's working, but I
At
mean,
some
I don't
point,
know.
this thing is not going to work.
I mean, I understand
Wait
you're gonna
till look
have
at the
other
players
guys
back.
coming in, but just the way that you're playing, you're scrapping away each game.
But
And
no one's gonna argue that Juventus play a good style. There's no one in the world that can say that, right? It's not fun, for sure, to watch. That's easy, but they're doing kind of what they have to do at this moment. I agree that for me, Allegri had to find a balance within this team, and his balance went too far one way, too far defensively, because when you play against Cremonese, I don't think you need to be defending with 11 men behind the ball to Cremonese, who have scored 11 goals in the entire Serie A season. So where's the threat there? And you can unleash a little bit more. And in certain moments, I think he can take his hand off the brake. The one pushback is like, they're doing what they need to do at this moment. for me, Juventus are just trying to get to that February February point where they get players back. And then that's
What
where
player? How many
I think,
players are you missing?
Okay, I'll explain it to you. Di Maria to full fitness. Vlahovic back playing. Pogba, Bonucci. Who else am I missing in the 11? Players that Chiesa fully fit because he's still not fully fit to start a game. When they get all of these players back,
You're going to change your style of playing.
I don't think the style will change, but I think they'll be unleashed. And the only way that Juve win games, similar to Roma, is they went through just individual players, right? It's moments in a game that change from the players. It's not the system. It's not the style, right? It's not the free-flowing finding spaces of Napoli, which focuses on the unit. It's much more individual in terms of the attack and the way that they get goals. Chiesa coming back already has shown a big difference. The goal that he assisted to Danilo, Paredes giving him that pass. So I think you'll see that Juventus. And my point is that when I say Juventus back, if they get to that moment, and they are already making those points back within touching distance, and then they get that quality of players, they have the roster that should be able to compete for the Scudetto.
Yeah, not even that though. The part that's interesting to me is in the beginning of the season they dropped so many bad points, and a lot of people already count them out. Imagine they didn't play that bad in the beginning. They'd be much closer to Napoli now. And yeah, I get what you're saying, Mark, when the players get back, but they should be playing better against a newly promoted Serie B side at the end of the time. But it is going to be interesting to see when the players come back, because I don't think Allegri is going to change too much, but it's going to be easier for them to get a goal or two. It's not going to just rely on a set piece or individual brilliance to get them ahead. And this Scudetto race, I think, is going to be much more interesting. We have Napoli there. We have Inter that are still chipping away. We have Milan there. We got, who did I miss?
You said the 4 teams.
I said the 4 teams.
Juventus, Milan,
right
Inter,
now,
and Napoli.
I feel like the chase is pretty good right now. A lot of people at Juve out. I have them second place, so I'm happy that they're winning now, because I was nervous in the beginning. I was like, oh, my prediction's going to be wrong. But they're pulling their weight. Even though we know how Allegri plays, it's nothing new. They're not going to play good football. It's just where they're going to end up at the end of the season.
The thing is, you said it best. Oh, imagine if they would have won those games or got those games.
You can't think like that.
But the thing is, they're not doing anything different now. The only thing that they're doing is that they're solid defensively.
They figure out points.
Yes, but because they figured out their defense. That's the only thing they figured out.
They find themselves
so when you're able to beat 2 teams in the last week, winning 1-0, scoring in the 87th minute and the 92nd minute, whatever it was when Milik scored, versus Cremonese, that's not good enough for me. And I think only to a certain extent, you're right there. Yes, you're going to have these better players.
They've always played like this, though. They've always played like against a small team.
Let me tell you something.
Not to the fact that Cremonese had 2 posts. And Juventus doesn't do anything the whole game.
Two disallowed goals.
Come on. 2 disallowed goals. So already, what I want to say before you jump in, you versus Napoli next week. So that's going to be a big game.
They're going to do 5-4-1 against Napoli. That's what they're going to do. They're going to do 5 defenders, 4 midfielders, and 1 striker.
They play 5-3-2.
5-4-1 they're going to do. Watch. Then number 1. Number 2, Juventus luck is that they found themselves to be on a 0-0, 1-1 situation until the last few minutes. What happened when they have the trail? If they trail the game, everything, all the hell is going to break loose. Yeah. So Juventus, for now, they found themselves to be very lucky, not just lucky, very lucky. So is this gonna be the motive of operandum for the rest of the season for them, hoping that something is gonna turn to go on the way all the time? I'm not sure about that. So when Juventus is gonna find themselves down 1-0 or 2-0 or 2-1 or 3 or 3-2, Juventus is not going to be able to make it.
I think it's going to be a really interesting
of all the
test.
sub and not sub, so that they've been missing players.
Number 1, it's not a good argument to say against who they're playing, because every team, this is the moment that Juventus are in, and they have to play the team that's in front of them, and they are in a good moment. So you have to say that they're getting the results. They're 8 wins in a row, and 12 clean sheets. 12 clean sheets. It doesn't happen very often in Serie A to do that. But the real test comes on Friday, where can you challenge for Scudetto? The battle is so interesting between Napoli and Juventus, because the 2 teams could not be more different in the philosophies of the coaches, of the clubs, of the history. There's so much that will go down on this. Napoli loves to attack. They're so free-flowing. They never stop going for it, no matter how many goals they score. They look for spaces. They're proactive. They play an attractive brand that so many would be interested in. Where on the flip side, Juventus is all, let's defend our lead. Everyone behind the ball. Counterattack and break when possible. Score goals late on to a match. Set pieces. Whatever you need to do to get into that. But as we said a few times already this year, Juventus have tried to play up to their opponent, and they did come big in matches that I didn't expect. Ever since the loss to Milan, it brought something to life within the squad. Does that justify the way that they play? For me, I already said it. When you're playing Cremonese, I don't think you need to be doing that, and it's pretty crazy. When you play against Napoli, watch how much you're going to be able to defend. But when they go up against the quality of a team like Napoli, who find spaces no matter what, who have a different level than the rest of the teams that they've been playing in the past. And let's also not forget that they also beat Lazio as well. So we're saying that they did this. They kept a clean sheet against these poor teams. But Lazio is a team that many people had either Lazio beat Inter. Lazio has played big in big matches. They're not in a good moment right now, but they still beat them. And they beat Inter as well. So it's not like Juventus has kept clean sheets against only the bad teams.
Funny you talking like that, because if I pick up some of the recording that we have on the past, you wanted Allegri out because of his style on playing. Because if you look at the way, look at the Juventus, what a disgrace. Look, Allegri shouldn't be coaching. Wait, let me finish. You were criticizing the way Juventus was playing because of this poor style of just defending and then coming out, and then when the game gets out of the hand and then everybody's scrambling for the ball and all the formation, the 4-3-1-2 or the 4-4-2 or the 4-3-3, everything goes bananas. So what all of a sudden now you are embracing Allegri with his style of playing and then wait and see, and you actually saying you're validating his style all of a sudden. So Allegri is the man or what?
I think I said the complete opposite of that. I think I just said that I don't agree with that style in certain moments in those games. And for me, when you ask me that, no, I don't think that this is good. Juventus are going down the exact same path that they were in a few years ago, when they were winning the Scudetto in a weaker Serie A, because the Serie A was weaker. The times that they won it, in certain moments, it was weaker, not against the Napoli, but they had a few years where they won it where they were just the best team individually, where they got to the moment where fans were still upset at the way that they were playing, that they fired Allegri and they went the complete opposite way and got Sarri and then got Pirlo. And then we know how that lasted, that they only wanted to win. So they are going down that same wrong path. I agree. But what I'm saying is Allegri, an old dog is not going to learn new tricks. We know what Allegri is going to do. This is his style of play. You knew what you were buying when you got him, right? As a coach.
So you agree, yes or not? Do you agree with what he's doing right now? What he's doing right now?
I think he's maximizing the most of what Allegri brings to a team.
You never answered the question.
I just said.
Do you agree with the Allegri's philosophy right now? Yes or not?
You can't change his philosophy. Would I want it? Would I say that at Juventus? No. But there's no change. There's no thinking to disagree with the way that they play.
I think you're not disagreeing technically, but you're not agreeing either. You are right there. You're just waiting and see.
Trying to get you.
Yeah.
Trying to get you.
No, you're trying to beat him.
I'm trying to
he already explained himself that the way that they're playing obviously is not a Juventus quality play team. The only thing is right now, this is what you have. You have Allegri as the coach. Who are you're going to sack him to get what? The record is coming in where you're winning. What is it, 8 straight games or whatever the case might be? So they're winning. So they're getting the points. It's not pretty, but they're still getting it. Like I said, if Cremonese comes in and would have won that game, or the game ended 0-0, we're sitting here talking about 100%. Allegri out.
Even the 0-0, not even losing.
Exactly, because that's how it works in Italy. If you
cutthroat.
If you
you're
win,
the genius.
You made it work and you were able to find a way. If you tie or lose, disaster, everything is burning, Rome is burning. That's Italy.
That's you.
Oh, it's not you?
No, I'm critical. If the mistake I've been made in the soccer display.
I already said I don't think it's for the level of Juventus, the style they're going down the exact same path. But I think that this Juventus team will be in that fight for the Scudetto just based off of what they're doing now, and then the players that they have coming back. Those individual players are going to resolve games.
That's what I was about to say. I think what's going to dictate that is that these players come in and really add to this Juventus team, which they should. But right now, they can't wait till February and just keep on doing this. I feel like that's not going to be a a good strategy.
Friday
But
will
I
tell
don't
us
think
a lot.
anything's changing. Oh,
No,
well, listen.
for sure, nothing is going to change.
Yeah. But even versus
You gotta give him
Napoli,
credit. He's doing good now.
versus Napoli, the luck is going to be if Napoli can't score first, like Antonio said.
Yeah, for sure.
If Napoli can't score first and Juventus is in the game 0-0,
They have all
they
the
get that
chances.
one
It's such a
goal,
similar
it's very
conversation to
hard.
Roma. Do you realize how similar
yeah.
you could if you took away the name Juventus and the name Roma, besides the positions in the table, obviously in the quality of players, but just in terms of the style, when Roma concede first, usually, I mean, they did show it today against Milan, but a lot of the times you feel like they can't get back into the game. They're relying on individual quality. It cements yourself, but the quality of players is different. Let's talk about Lazio real quick before we get out of here.
Napoli, did we talk about?
Did we talk about
No,
Napoli?
we didn't talk about
Napoli, Sampdoria.
Napoli, Sampdoria. Yeah, sorry.
You guys are all
Let's
jealous
do-
that Napoli gonna win the Scudetto, and no one else to talk about.
This is why we have a crew. Everybody reminds each other. Lazio, they lost to Lecce, and then they tied to Empoli, 94th minute. I don't know. 1 point in your first 2 games of 2023 is not good enough for
The way that happened. Sorry.
away. Yeah, but
The way it happened.
Oh, the
The
way.
way,
I thought you meant away to Lecce.
no.
Because away Lecce has a really
Tough,
great
tough.
home base, home fans. I think they got the 6th best attendance in the Serie A, and they actually play really good against the big teams, right? They against Inter took you to the last moment. Lecce against Milan, Roma and Juventus, it was always a tight game. They beat Lazio, and they also beat Atalanta as well. So they're a tough team to play against. They're gritty. They fight. I get that, but still, for a team like Lazio, these are your first 2 games of 2023. I mean, you can't be happy.
So the maestro is not actually the maestro, the way we say it. So again, those are contingency. Believe me, Juventus, they found themselves in this beautiful period of
We're talking about Lazio.
luck. Yeah, Lazio. I'm just comparing Juventus with Lazio. Juventus, they found themselves to be winning without really displaying anything. Lazio, they have a much better, beautiful game. The way they show up on the field and things like that. And many times, the results are the opposite. In soccer, quantity does not translate into points. Quantity and beauty of the game does not translate necessarily in points that you put it on the board. So in this particular period, Juventus is capitalizing on the luck, because they've been lucky. Believe me. Other teams that will look at AC Milan. AC Milan deserves to win today. And we come up with 1 point. And are we complaining? No, it's the rules that we have to follow. You guys get slapped with the referees and all the stuff. So it is what it is. So we tip the hat to Juventus, and we hope that Juventus is going to trip up soon.
But the interesting thing about what you said
And Lazio.
with
And
Lazio
Lazio,
is
yeah.
that they've been more pragmatic. Like, they've tried to focus more on defense. They haven't just been the free-flowing, let's go and attack Maurizio Sarri, but results are not going their way at the moment. And for me, I know maybe prisoner of the moment, but I don't see them getting into the top 4 with the level of the 4 teams that are ahead of them at the moment.
No, I don't see it either. Also, with Sarri, we see him like questioning this team in a sense, like their mental stage. He's saying how there's still this blackout and they're not understanding his style of play and all these different things that I think it's distracting for him, because with the other teams that he's had success with, aside from Juventus, but like the Napoli, Empoli, they didn't have these big names, and they listened to Sarri and how he developed the game. And at times, obviously in the beginning of the season, the way Lazio was playing was remarkable.
We kept saying
And-
year 2 Sarri.
Yeah,
this
year
is
2
what
and
this is
everything.
back.
But
You remember that,
it
Mike?
seems like there's something brewing in this locker room, because he really, I think, let the team have it, and you were expecting this big result versus Empoli today, and they were up 2-0. So it's really inexcusable to find yourself to tie this game versus Empoli, especially in the last minute again. But Lazio is just a very confusing team, because I think you shouldn't, if you're winning 2-0, right, 2-1 even, we'll put it both in Milan's and Inter's case, you have to be able to close out the game. And that's something that we haven't seen with a lot of these teams. But maybe that is also to say that, the level of the Serie A, there's all these teams are pushing back. There's no layover team. Like, even with the Cremonese, they might lose their game, but they're going to go out and give you a run for your money. Lecce, the same thing. So there's no really easy wins.
You know what I think that is? I think the level of coaching has drastically improved. I see young coaches, and I know it's so hard to stick up for Alvini, but he really has become one of my favorite coaches. He doesn't have a win in Serie A. By all means, like you said, in Italy, you'll call him a loser. Every game that he plays, like, they're in the game. And for me, it's like, it brings up an interesting conversation, the quality of the players, right? How do you judge a coach? You watch Cremonese Juventus, right? Juventus win that game. But the quality of players that they have, that Allegri has, compared to Alvini, who was the better coach? No, because Allegri won, he's the better coach because he's won so much. For me, the ideas is still a thing that I value, right? And when I listen to the ideas of Alvini, of Palladino, Zanetti, we're talking Baroni, we're talking about coaches that have come in to implement new styles, new motivations, incorporate younger players, lesser known players. That, for me, that is the bigger difference that I always see with these sorts of teams.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, Lazio and Sarri, I feel like Sarri just had a good time with Napoli when he was a coach, because with him, I don't see much. What's good football, quote unquote good football, do if you can't get any wins? At that point, I'd rather have a coach like Allegri that doesn't play good, but at the end of the season, you're higher on the table, and no one's gonna remember how you played as long as you finish there. Sarri, to me, I'm not on this bandwagon anymore. I feel like he doesn't know how to talk to players. He's not a good manager with the one-on-one with the players. It takes too long for his philosophy to take on. That's if he even goes on. Maybe we're too harsh on Anto when Anto was saying he's not that as good as we think, or whatever.
Style,
or whatever the case is. I'm not happy with it. Lazio just do not look good, and I think Sarri's the protagonist for that.
I think Sarri's notorious in the locker room for when things are going great. He shifts like
he rides just like everyone else.
But when things go wrong, that he's pinpointing certain players. But I mean, Mourinho does the same thing. So are we really gonna say, oh, Sarri, he's not to be trusted, or he's not the real coach and he's all a farce? I don't think so. It's just his style of play. We know he's not a man manager. There's teams, there's coaches that are man managers that have amazing man management skills. Ancelotti,
100%.
Zidane. These are coaches that know how to deal with personalities and just be able to maintain harmony in the locker room. Obviously, like Marco said, you need to have the star players to be able to resolve the game. If you don't have the players, you could be a magician. If you don't have the rabbit, you're not gonna be able to pull a rabbit out of the hat. So that's the idea.
I like that.
Lots of tricks from you today.
Yeah,
card tricks, magic tricks.
Pretzel. Word salad and pretzel, twists everything into pretzels. He always comes up on top all the time. He's the magician.
He's the maestro.
Yeah, the maestro. He's the real maestro.
Not Sarri, right?
Yeah, not Sarri.
Before I leave it, let me say, Sarri for me. I want to make him pretzels.
Yeah, the pretzel.
Sarri for me, great mastermind in what he does of how to develop the game, but like you said, does it implement into the real life, into the Serie A game? Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to win the games, but he'll become an icon such as a Zeman. When Zemanlandia, he created this Foggia team, Pescara, that developed 3 players, Immobile, Insigne, Verratti. That was due to Zeman. Now, he didn't win anything in his career, but he brought calcio champagne. That was his style. That was what he was able to do.
Let's talk about the last team, Napoli. They had the poor match against Inter, and then they won today against Sampdoria. I thought they were good timing for them in the schedule that they had to play one of the worst teams. Sampdoria, they always fight, though. I give them the credit that they tried to go out there with the right approach, the right attitude. Even though they saved the penalty early on, Aldero, so I thought maybe they could find themselves in it. They struggle too much to score goals. It's nearly impossible. Then they go down to 10 men. Rincon gets a red card. Napoli, it was a tough task for them. I think also a lot riding on Sampdoria because of the Vialli and the Mihajlovic tributes. I thought that's not easy to play in front of that crowd and a team that was highly motivated. Osimhen scores, which is great for them. Elma scores from the penalty spot. The moment that Napoli's coming in against a team like Juventus, how do we see it and how do we judge it? And Kvara, obviously not in the best form. 2 games where he got kicked so much in the first one against Inter. This last game as well, not on the score sheet, not giving assists. Mike, what do you make of it?
I think this was a huge win. I think a lot of people, including myself, were nervous if Napoli could come back from that very tough loss against Inter And I think they did that very, very well, especially playing away at Genova. It was raining. It was very bad weather. Everyone was slipping around. Even the keeper was making some mistakes. So it's very tough. I think Vara's got to get back on his feet. Other than that, I think Osimhen played very well. He got a goal. He ended up getting Rincon a red card. He was all over the place. A lot of people still give him a lot of stick for saying he could do more.
Now.
But he's doing
10 goals.
Yeah, first striker to get 10 goals, actually, which is very good. But I think this was a huge statement for Napoli. And even bigger win that Milan dropped points because they extend their lead for after losing to Inter, which was very big for them. And this can give them a lot of motivation for the game against Juventus. That game's gonna be a very, very good one, I think, overall. That game?
Yeah.
Tie.
Oh, man. I think Juve, you can say what you want about Juve, but Juve usually always play up to their opponent.
It's a 0-0 game.
It's going to be a very low-scoring game.
0-0.
I think I could see a 1-0 going either way, honestly.
Best attack versus the best defense.
0-0.
Yeah. I think Vara has to show a big statement that he's back on that one for the second half of the season against Juventus. Since the last two, he's been very heavily guarded, heavily defended, and heavily brought down on the floor a lot of the times. But I think that's going to be a really good match. And all credit to Spalletti getting that. That game was not easy. Yeah, they got 2 penalties or whatever, but they worked for the penalties, and they were playing against Sampdoria with 10 men. But good stuff for Napoli on that one.
Fireworks are going to be on Friday.
Oh, it's Napoli's first game in the Maradona since November.
Is it?
Yeah, because they played in Milan,
they played away
they played
2
in
games.
Genoa.
You're
So,
right. Wow.
and then it's obviously Napoli-Juve. So you know that stadium is going to be rocking.
Popping.
What it's going to be interesting is seeing how Napoli adapt to Juventus, not the other way around. I think because what Inter were able to do with Napoli, they kind of left the blueprint for Allegri. You have to be physical with Kvara. You have to be able to make sure he doesn't get enough touches on the ball. And we know that Juventus have that physicality in their defense. I mean, it's not for nothing that they have 12 clean sheets. They have allowed only 7 goals in the whole, in 17 games. That's pretty remarkable. So on Napoli's side is being able to understand that you don't want to get caught on the counter because that's what Juventus is playing for. But at the same time, you want to be able to implement your game. And Kvara, like you said, needs to have a big game.
Statement.
Osimhen is always ready.
He's always good.
I love Osimhen. I think he's one of these guys
involved.
that even when he's not on, he's always going to create some mischief.
You
The
know,
defense of Napoli scares me a little bit.
The key of the game, I think, for Spalletti is to stop somehow Chiesa, because Chiesa on a counter, he can just burn you. No one-on-one, when there is when he jumps the guys, Chiesa can put himself not in the position to take a shot, but to assist somebody like he did it today, on almost a dead ball situation.
He's the only player that has speed in the Juventus attack.
So Milik, on the other hand, if somebody's starting to cross the ball with his head, is very capable.
Dangerous.
And let me tell you something. So team. I see a 1-1 or a 0-0 because I think the teams are pretty balanced in terms of player to player.
Wow, so no winner?
No, they're not gonna. Nobody's gonna win the game.
I wonder how Juventus's approach will be, because obviously they're in this good moment. And they're close to Napoli, but they believe they obviously want to fight for the Scudetto. So a win would be something spectacular to try to do in Naples.
That'd be crazy.
I think they're
tie for Juventus is a positive result. Even if they tie, for them it's very positive. Sure. So they're not going to go. I mean, I'm sure they're going to try their best to win, but it's not going to happen. Because, unless Juventus find themselves 1-0 for some reason, or maybe somebody gets thrown out or a red card or whatever.
If they score first.
If they score first, I see bad trouble for Napoli.
I see Juventus coming out in the first 15 minutes and really pushing Napoli. I think the first 15 minutes. Then from there, you're going to see Allegri's defensive blockade with, like you said, with the 2 lines and no space.
It's a 1-1 or 0-0. Actually, I hope for the tie, because AC Milan can make up this.
That's why.
This hiccup that we had with Roma. I think we're playing Lecce, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Lecce Milan.
Yeah, Lecce Milan.
Not easy. Not easy game as well, as we've learned. Guys, that is our podcast. We will talk to you soon. Ciao ragazzi.
Okay.
Speak soon. Ciao.
Yes. And Forza?
Milan.